Russell Westbrook picked the right game to make his Los Angeles Clippers debut because this was unreal. The second highest scoring game in NBA history, ladies and gentlemen. Clippers hosting the Kings. Brodie making plays with his new team for himself and others. How about Russell Westbrook? 17 points, 14 assists, 5 rebounds in his Clippers debut. They're up in the third quarter where Kawhi Leonard said, "I'll take over this highlight." He went 5 for 5 in the first quarter. He goes 8 for 8 in the third quarter, 23 points in the frame. But if you ain't been watching, the Sacramento Kings have been playing good ball. They put up points on everybody, in large part due to that guy, Malik Monk, with the lob to De'Aaron Fox, who throws it down. We're in the fourth, and we're already in the 130s. As George goes and gets a couple buckets, he had some really good moments. He had some bad moments. That deuce plus the foul puts Los Angeles up 13 with 6 minutes to go. Here's some of the bad that I mentioned. It's George with the turnover, Fox with the easy deuce, and then De'Aaron finding Domantas Sabonis inside. Kings now just down a point with 18 seconds to go. How about the Clippers calling on Brodie? Now Los Angeles leads by 3 in the closing seconds. They opt not to foul. And that's a mistake. Malik Monk ties this game up, so we would go to overtime in the extra period. It's again Brodie knocking down the clutch jumper. But the Kings are not done. Malik Monk in transition, 2 of his career high, 45 points. Grown man deuce for Malik. More Monk. It's going to get fouled by Brodie. And at the line, Monk's going to tie this game up at 164. Last chance for the Clippers in overtime. Again, one of those bad moments from PG. Just a sloppy possession overall. He misses. Kawhi's tip doesn't go. And we would go into a second overtime. And the second OT, it's Kawhi. He had a season-high 44 on 16 of 22 shooting. Just 1 point off his career high. De'Aaron Fox had himself a game, 42 points and 12 assists. The numbers were everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Clippers are now down a point. In the closing seconds of double OT, Nicholas Batum's shot doesn't seem like it ever had a chance. And how about Sacramento coming back to beat the Clippers? 176-175, as I mentioned, to kick this highlight off. This is the second highest scoring game in NBA history. Just a couple other stats. The Clippers and Kings become just the third and fourth teams to score 175 in a game. There were 3 40-point scorers in this game, one of them being Malik. The Kings now become just the third team in NBA history with a 40-point score as starter and off the bench. A wild one from Los Angeles. I was listening to Los Angeles Clippers head coach Ty Lue, and I don't need to put the quote on the screen, but quickly he said, we brought Russell Westbrook in to let Russ be Russ. I said, oh, Lord, here we go again. I done heard this before. But we going to let Russ be Russ. We want Russ to cook. I said, oh, Lord, here we go again. 5 teams, 5 years. It's about to be number 6. And sooner or later, it's going to be somewhere in Shanghai if Russ keep this up. But then Ty Lue did clean up the comment. I think he said something along the lines of, if he's doing too little, I'll tell him to kick it up a notch. If he's doing too much, I'll tell him to pull back. Then I was like, oh, okay, Ty Lue, you saved yourself. That's a good thing to say. I like that honesty. You know what Russell Westbrook needs more than anything is honesty. He needs somebody to keep it real with him and tell him, Brodie, I love how you can attack, but sometimes pull it back. I do have a hot take, by the way. I was thinking about this a few minutes ago. Russell Westbrook could have been the greatest basketball player of all time, by the way. I really do mean it. Don't turn me off. Let me explain myself first, and then we're going to talk about his performance against the Kings here in his first game as a Clipper. Real quick, I do want to put this out in the atmosphere. Russell Westbrook is still unreally athletic. I was just watching the game, and I was like, man, this dude is still an unreal athlete. The thing with Russell Westbrook is he doesn't want to listen to anybody. He's too headstrong. And I get it. Him being headstrong, by the way, when you're in middle school, high school, knocking down doubters left and right, He wasn't that highly touted at UCLA, if I remember correctly, because my Memphis Tigers at the time were relevant. Obviously, I ended up being a Tennessee Volunteer, but that's neither here nor there. The Russell Westbrook story starts with him saying, I'm going to be him no matter what you say. And that mentality, I'm sure, is a big part of what got him to this level of the NBA Hall of Fame, which is what he'll be first ballot. One of the most sensational talents to see night in, night out in the NBA. But the other piece to that is, if he just listened, if he found people that he trusts and listened to, like the right people, though, that could get to him and say, yo, Brodie, don't do that, bruh. Like, but this is why. Like, one of the things with me, and I don't want to compare Russ to a child, one of the reasons why me and my dad butted heads a lot when I was a kid was because I needed whys. And when you're paying rent, which my dad was, and you're paying bills and you work hard, you don't want to give your kid a why. He's like, do it because I said so. For me, that wasn't enough, though. I needed to know why. Why am I getting, why is this happening? Why am I getting punished? Why can't I have the TV on at midnight? Like, I'm one of them guys. I need to know the why. And I do believe whys help in relationships. And to me, when I watch Russ, again, not trying to compare him to a kid, what I'm saying is sometimes it is childish on the court seeing him seemingly not trust people. It's almost like he needs to understand the why. So when I say I think Russ could have been the greatest basketball player of all time, I'm serious about that. The athleticism has held up. I mean, Russ is like 33, 34. He's pretty much at the point where Kobe fell off, right? Like, think about that, right? Russ athletically looks better than what Kobe looked around that age. Like, obviously not as good as his former teammate LeBron, but I mean, 33, 34, still with the bounce that Russ has got, still with he looks great. They're doing on social media, they put up like pictures of Russ throughout the years. And if you look at his picture from his first year in the league with the Seattle Supersonics, right? And you look at it to now, 14, 15 years in, he looks phenomenal in the face, right? Like, he looks great. He looks youthful. He still looks the same dude from 15 years ago. I remember watching UCLA. I remember that UCLA Bruins team with Kevin Love. Because, again, at the time I was young. I hadn't chose Tennessee yet. I was a Memphis Tigers fan. So I remember watching Brodie. This crazy thing. He looks phenomenal. Athleticism still looks really great. So I hope it works out for Brodie with the Clippers. My gut tells me it's not, but we will see. That was a good first game. That's not his fault. Paul George was the guy that made those mistakes down the stretch, not Russ. And now when Russ made plays, I don't think the Clippers needed him. I said that in the previous video. I don't believe the Clippers needed Russ. I would have rolled with Terrence Mann. I would have rolled with Eric Gordon. That's who I want on the court late in games. And Ty Lue might still do that. In the playoffs, I'm going to want Eric Gordon on the court with Paul George and Kawhi. Because the ball's going to be in Paul George's and Kawhi's hands anyway, more times than not. I want a better shooter on the court. I want a savvy vet on the court. I understand maybe wanting Russ over Terrence as your starter. I see why. I would go with Terrence, but I understand the logic behind that. Russ is just savvy. Like no matter what, even though I think Russ makes some critical errors in game, the reality is he's still a 15-year vet with unreal athleticism. So I understand maybe for this postseason run, if you think Terrence is not there just yet, even though I like Terrence Mann a lot, I really do. So I get that part, but late in games, I don't want Russ on the court. I want Eric Gordon on the court. In the playoffs, I want Eric Gordon. I want another shooter on the court. Eric Gordon is a guy that can win a game in the playoffs. We will see. If nothing else, Russ will eat up some regular season minutes. The problem is, like, for the Clippers, they don't really got the point guard, though, that needs regular season minutes ate up. Like, Terrence wants to play. They still want to ball out. I'm sure Eric Gordon want to play ball. He didn't got out of Houston. That's the biggest blessing ever. He didn't got away from them young bulls that don't do nothing but shoot in Houston. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the Russell Westbrook experience. One game in Los Angeles. It just so happened to be the second highest scoring game in NBA history. Clippers on the losing end so far on 1 under Westbrook, but it wasn't his fault. He balled out 17, 14, and 5 in his debut as the Clippers fall by 1 in double OT.